Namaste Lovelies, and thank you for tuning in to tell you the truth. In this particular episode, I wanted to talk about a personal thing that I want to share with you guys that is a major tool that really started my own spiritual growth and development for myself. And I wanted to just share this with you if this is a path that you're just beginning on, knowing that you're a spiritual being, knowing that you're in a body, and how to navigate all of this stuff. So the first thing that I want to say is that I do have a couple of personal mottos for myself. And one of my mottos is know thyself, accept thyself, love thyself. And that is kind of my mantra of what I do in order to come to be as close to myself as possible. And these steps I wanted to share with you because for me personally, this is a very true thing. First, I have to understand myself. I have to get to know myself on a deeper level. I have to know who I truly am and what my shadows are, what my good points are, what I like about myself, what I don't like about myself, things that I can change and move around because we all have a choice. So if I know myself and I truly understand who I am as a being, then what I can do from there is start accepting the things that I want to keep for myself and the personality traits and the type of person that I want to be, and also be aware of the things that I want to be able to shed, the things that don't serve me or don't serve my purpose here in this life. And I sometimes integrating and definitely integrating shadows, definitely integrating parts of your ego, all of that kind of stuff. That is the acceptance of yourself once you know yourself. And then the beautiful ending is loving yourself, of coming to this place of peace with yourself. And I think that that is so important. I have a lot of different parts of myself that I want to enable, that I want to be able to show people, and I have talents, and I also have really bad qualities about myself that are very ingrained, that I'm still healing, that I'm still working on, and then we also have our DNA and we have our genetics and all of this stuff. So being able to start out with asking the question, the true question, who am I? To thine own self be true, you really have to understand who you are first. So the biggest question is, who are you? And the way that I go about it is, how I got to know myself was through different personality quizzes and my astrology chart and numerology and all of these different things that kind of let me know, am I this thing? And it wasn't like, oh, I got my astrology chart, or oh, I did this personality quiz, so this is who I am. No, I literally question everything. So my astrology chart made me question a lot of things about myself. I have a stellium in the 12th house. So I was questioning a lot, like, about the 12th house, about understanding myself and seeing the shadows and being able to understand, and reflect, and all of these quizzes and the astrology chart and the numerology, all of this was a mirror. And I'd ask myself in the mirror, like, is that really true about myself? Is that something I can change, or am I wanting to change that about myself? So starting on a spiritual path, you're really going to have to get to know yourself on a deeper level, and you're going to have to be willing to go deep. Like, that's kind of the thing. It's all about self-realization, and I will let you know that it's a journey. It's not, there's no necessary destination, because as I've been doing this work, I keep going over these steps, and I keep finding different layers of myself, and I keep peeling back different layers of who I am, or I'm shifting and changing and understanding more and more about myself. And maybe one thing that worked for me in the past doesn't necessarily work for me anymore in this present self. You know, like I am not my name, I am not a label. And so these are things that we really have to question as well. Is if you're making judgments, I mean, all of us make judgments. All of us have an ego, and the ego has to talk and try and understand itself and try to control things from the outside and the inside. And I'm not necessarily saying the ego is bad. I am saying put the ego in the back seat. But that's later. So first of all, understand your ego. Ego is essentially your identity. Ego is what you want the outside world to see, what your inner dialogue is. All of this stuff is the ego. And so labels, belief systems, judgments, all of these things, watch and be aware of your brain and your thoughts and your patterns. So that's another thing that I started doing, was trying to understand, not only with all of the fun quizzes and the astrology chart and the numerology and all that stuff and the mirroring, was trying to understand my thought dialogue and my inner dialogue, and why I had that inner dialogue, and if I could change that inner dialogue. And so essentially I started doing a lot of law of attraction, manifestation, positive thinking, stuff like that, in order to see if I could break these patterns of thought that I had. And essentially it all comes down to choice. And I'm not saying that, you know, you go full positive thinking or law of attraction works if you don't do any action to try and help it out. I am just saying, personally for me, I started realizing that I could control my thoughts. And if there was a thought that I didn't want to think, I would be able to be aware of it. And so the first thing is really being aware of who you are, being aware of the things that you do, the habits, all of the habits that you do, all the little, you know, like I was biting my nails and I was doing all these little nervous tics, and I started watching myself. So these are all things that you can do and really be aware about. Another thing that really helped me understand myself was looking back at my past and recognizing patterns of my past. So when I was looking back at my past, I was looking at some patterns that I had not only made for myself, but patterns that I was following from my mom. Like, oh, I'm not acting like maybe what I would actually act like. I was acting like maybe what my mom would act like. Or, you know, you can be influenced in your early ages by teachers, by family members, by all of these different influences in your early life. And when you go back as an adult and look back at your past and these patterns, you start realizing the things that are serving you, the actions that are serving you, the choices that you make, and the ones that are not. And so I started going back in my past, and I started deciding that maybe the choice of relationships wasn't necessarily for my highest and best. And so I wanted to choose differently in my relationships. Not only the person that I chose to be in a relationship with, but also the way that I interacted in a relationship. But again, just start with recognizing and being aware of your choices, of what you're making. So self-realization, amazing. It really is. It's such a gift, and it's such a fun thing to look at. And I mean, I guess, okay, it's not all fun and sunshine and roses and rainbows and all that stuff. It can be daunting at times, and it can be hard to look and take responsibility for some of the actions that you've made in the past, to forgive yourself for that stuff, which is part of the acceptance part of the accept thyself. But be able to even just look at them and be like, yeah, and acknowledge I did that, you know, and really show yourself the truth about who you are. And I know that there's a lot of me that was in resistance to some of the things that I did in my past, some of the things that I was ashamed of and felt guilty for, things that you can't go back and do better. And you just have to give yourself space to watch it, to see it, to be able to just come to terms with knowing that that is part of who you are, or not necessarily part of who you are, but that was the choice that you made in that space, in that time. And I think, okay, so also saying who you are, knowing and feeling confident and trusting in who you are is a big part as well. So as you get to know yourself better, as you get to understand the way that you interact in the world, the way that you interact mentally with yourself, you start recognizing that who you are is not necessarily this body, is not necessarily the family that you came into, is not necessarily the material gains that you have in this world. Who you are is something that's, to me, in my personal opinion, is infinitely more precious. And always coming back to that inner knowing that regardless of what's happening in this life, regardless of what's happening around me, and regardless of the emotions, that there is a steadiness, there is a sturdiness, and there is an infallible sense of being able to know that there is spirit and there is a soul, and knowing that this is not just a one, what is it, one horse pony, one trick pony, but it's not a done deal, and knowing that there is something eternal inside all of us, and letting and being able to let that eternal flame, that infinite soul shine through this physical body. It's such a beautiful thing, and it really does give you so much peace. One last thing to know yourself better is when you are emotionally charged, and I mean, you don't have to necessarily be sad or mad, but when you're emotionally charged, even excited or get butterflies in your stomach, anything like that, notice that you're emotional. Be aware of your emotional state. And then if you can just take a couple seconds, and where do you feel it in your body? Where is it in your body? Where is it in your chakra centers? And being able to just look at it, look at the emotion. And if you want to take it even further, why? What triggered this emotion? What triggered the emotion, and why are you feeling this emotion? Start asking yourself all these questions. And sometimes you'll be really surprised. So there's a lot of ways to get to know yourself, and there's a lot of books about it. I recommend The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. It's a brilliant, brilliant book. I'll probably be doing a book video with the untethered soul in it. But knowing thyself, trusting yourself is a really big deal. But if you are not there in that whole trust yet, and you don't know who you are, and it seems like you're floundering, really start honing in and being aware of your emotional state, especially like when you're driving. What are you thinking about? At your job, how do you feel about your job? Do you like going to your job? Does it feel stressful to you? These are things that, getting to know yourself and and being able to understand are essential for self-realization and spiritual growth. And on a bigger scale, human evolution, the evolution of our consciousness. So, the more work that you put into knowing yourself, the more you'll be able to understand yourself. And after that comes accepting yourself and loving yourself. There's ways to, be able to hone in on your intuition and your intuitive abilities because we all have them. And so that's another avenue of getting to know yourself as well. What intuitive way do what intuitions come to you, and what way do they come to you? Is it a vision? Is it in dreams? Is it in divination? Stuff like that. So it's really fun to get to know yourself for the most part, and it's really empowering to see the labels that we put on ourselves and the judgments and the belief systems that we can actually have the potential to change if we want to, just by being able to recognize that if you don't want that to be you, it doesn't have to be. I am going to put a lot of links down below in the description just for fun. I'm going to put a bunch of quizzes and I don't even know. I hope this helps. And I give you so many, so many, so many blessings on your journey. May it be amazing. And if you're just starting out, I applaud you for being a spiritual growth warrior, from one spiritual growth junkie to another. Namaste, lovelies.